Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are in the world. Welcome to the Happiness Hacking TV show and podcast, a place to inform and inspire you to live a happier, more abundant life. I'm Patricia Maddalena, international best-selling author, NLP master and trainer and integration therapist. But more importantly, I'm mum to 3 full-power children who span the toddler to teen age bracket. And they teach me and they inspire me and they guide me to be the best version of me that I can possibly be. And each week I'll be bringing you a brand new episode, tying in extracts from my best-selling book, The Happiness Hacker Reveals, bringing you shows full of inspiration as well as inspiring interviews from experts in their fields, all designed to support us on our mission to stay connected, present and happy in this hectic world. And if you've not yet ordered a copy of The Happiness Hacker Reveals, then please do go and grab one so that you can access all of the amazing trainings and bonuses that I've created to help you have a happier and more successful life. You can find out more over at www.transformation.tv. And remember to bounce on over to the Transformation TV Facebook page and like that so that you can stay up to date with all of our inspiring news and TV shows. Welcome to episode 6. It's a super marvelous episode. How mindfulness can help your anxious child. So in this episode, I'm joined by my very special guest, Carol Powell. Now, Carol runs Chatterminds, which introduces mindfulness and different tools and techniques to children and teenagers and their parents. But Carol particularly specialises in working with children with anxiety. So we'll just bring Carol in. Hi, Carol. It's so good to have you here. Welcome to the Happiness Hacking podcast.
Hello. Hi. Having me.
You're welcome. So let's just dive straight in. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got to where you are today, any kind of aha moments that led you here?
Okay, great. Well, I'm a primary school teacher. That's my training. So I taught in primary schools for about 10 years. Absolutely loved it. Love working with children. Then I moved into teaching special needs, so moved into secondary, and I was teaching children with additional needs. And then running along parallel with basically a lot of my life, I've been battling with anxiety on a personal level. And so was introduced to mindfulness about 6 years ago and found it to be a really powerful tool and just thought, wow, this would be amazing to use with children, because it's not used that much with children. So I trained with Mindfulness in Schools project and got qualifications to teach Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4, and then rolled it out in school with my children with additional needs. And it went really well. Loads of kids really it didn't work for all children with additional needs. There are certain sort of needs where it didn't fit brilliantly, but there were lots of success stories with children just feeling more able to manage sort of with their emotional regulation. Anyway, so then I left teaching about just over 2 years ago, and just had this little seed of an idea that I would love to work still with children of all ages, because I love working with little tiny tots, but right up to teenagers. And thought it would be great to give children sort of like a toolkit to manage big feelings, but not just the bad feelings and the tricky feelings, although we do sort of specialise in anxiety. It's essentially, I sort of talk to the children about being able to manage the ups and downs of life. So Chatterminds last September.
And it's been going really well, hasn't it? Because it's so needed.
I've been so busy. Yeah. So it's been wow. It's been quite a journey, because I'm not a businesswoman, so that in itself has given me a reason to practice what I preach, because it's quite challenging and stressful, but amazing. But in the year that I've been open, it's just gone boom. I'm working with so many children, and so I've written courses, which, so I do a course for 5 to 7 year olds, a course for 8 to 10s, and then 11 plus. And they go on a rolling program. They're essentially they're mindfulness courses, essentially based on the adult mindfulness-based stress reduction program. But I weave lots of stuff in, lots of different things in. So we make stuff, it's creative.
So what kind of so they come for like term time or blocks of 6, do they? And then they come every week. Is that right?
That's right. So the 5 to 7 year olds, it's a 6-week course. They come once a week after school for an hour, not in the holidays. And the session has a title, so it might be on anger, or it might be on resilience, or it might be on worry and anxiety. And we do some learning around whatever the subject is, and then we make a craft which will support the mindfulness practice that they can then take home with them. And then throughout all of my courses, I'm in really close contact with parents. So if things are coming up for the children at the time, so it might be something like falling out with a best friend or something like that. I do a lot of work on managing tricky friends, because that comes up a lot with children. So I hear what's going on for the children at home or at school, and then I sort of weave it into the following week. And I feel that is a real asset to the course, actually, because it's very relevant to the children. It's not just a blanket.
Well, they can use it, can't they? I mean, they can immediately take that back into school and use what you're offering them as a tool. That's
right. And then the following week they can feed back, and we do it at the beginning of each session. They have 30 seconds to think about the best thing and the worst thing that's happened since we saw each other last. And so that's a nice little starting point.
Yeah, and I suppose then it can build from there, doesn't it? So what kind of you know, if I so again, you work really closely with the parent, so you know, whatever the children are learning within your class, the parent can then take a bit of that resource home and apply it at home and say, oh, remember your what kind of tools would they have?
So after the session, I write a very detailed email to the parents, with specifically outlining exactly what we've covered, so it can be reinforced at home, going through it carefully. And the children take home practice. So for example, let me just show you something here I've got. So one of the things we talk about is how our moods are like the weather, and how we compare our moods to different weather patterns here. The children can decide what weather patterns they use. And then during the week, they would have a chart like this, where they have to cut and stick the weather of their mind before school, after school, and bedtime. So that's an example of something that parents can get involved in. And it's powerful for children to know that moods come and go, you know?
Yeah, just like the weather.
Just like the weather, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so what would be one of your kind of top tips if somebody had a child that was suffering from anxiety, you know, about going to school, say, or just generally, what would
okay, so there's a lot to it, actually, but I would say one of the top things is to name it, allow it to be there. It's there anyway. We talk about feeling monsters sometimes. Well, I don't like the term monsters. I'm in the process of changing that, but it's an idea of having this thing that visits you, and it's there anyway, so you may as well just let it be there. So we talk about having a sofa in our tummy, and they can have these feelings, come and have a little sit on the sofa and have a cup of tea, because they'll go when they're ready. So it's a sort of knowing, okay, so I'm feeling a bit anxious this morning. Oh, I can feel it. Now, where do I feel it? Okay, so I can feel it in my tummy. Okay, and then we use our superpower, which is our breath. So it's all around the breath, and we call it our superpower. And it's about, I give the children all sorts of different breathing exercises that they practice. They have to practice them when they're calm. They have to practice them every evening, so that when they're needed, they're very familiar to them.
Yeah.
So allowing it, tuning into it, turning towards it, using our breath. And then we do strong positive thoughts. So we talk a lot about what's actually happening in the brain and the body. So I'll show you here actually. I've got a little, we talk about the part of the brain, the amygdala, that is like a button that gets pressed when we sense fear. So we talk all about that going into fight or flight, because I think it's quite empowering for children to know what's going on. So your amygdala's got a bit overexcited.
It's a system in the body. It makes it normalised, doesn't it?
Exactly, and this is what's happening because it's trying to keep you safe. So, and then we've got to have this man here. We draw on, and it's sort of the pumping heart and the sort of butterflies in the tummy and things like that. And so it's about pointing out what's actually going on to the children. So, okay, so you've noticed your amygdala's got a bit overexcited. So you need to use strong positive thoughts. So I'm the boss of my amygdala. I can do this. I'm brave. You know. This is, you know, thanks amygdala for you know, looking out for me, but I've got this. That sort of, you know, like that.
Taking back the reins of power.
Yes, but also sort of the self-soothing as well. So actually I say to the children, talking to themselves like they're talking to their best friend, and maybe putting their hand on where they feel the worry and say, do you know, it's going to be okay. It's going to pass like the weather. So that's just a little synopsis maybe of what I would teach.
Really building a really strong kind of relationship between the mind and the body, and themselves, for them to then go away and not be just taken over by these strong feelings or tricky situations, because that's what happens, isn't it? We get taken over by a massive feeling, and a situation that could have been de-escalated suddenly escalates, and things kind of snowball, don't they, because we're not in our presence of mind, are we don't, you know, something shuts down and we're not that resourceful anymore. So I suppose that's your what is it, what did you call it?
The amygdala. Yeah, so the amygdala's sort of been triggered, and then all of the fight and all the you know, the cortisol and the adrenaline's around, and then it just, like you say, it snowballs. So it's a case of just getting grounded and knowing that, you know, it doesn't feel very nice, you know, and it's going to just go like that, but it will pass. And it's okay, let's just, like you say, it's getting out of here and getting into our bodies. Getting into our bodies. And
breath really is that superpower, isn't it? I mean, we are talking about children, but anybody can use that.
Oh my goodness. It is just phenomenal how powerful the breath is. You know,
I mean, not only does it keep us alive every moment of every day, but it's just amazing.
Just taking a breath and you know, just bringing yourself out of here and just back into the present moment, because we're just so often lost in thought, and when we're lost in thought, that is when we can have a tendency to overthink things and worry and ruminate. So to train yourself to come back to the present moment as often as possible is a really useful thing to do.
And that in essence is mindfulness, isn't it?
Yeah, that is mindfulness, pretty much. It's about training your mind to stay as present. That's the crux of it, but it's on purpose. So it's choosing to be present on purpose.
So what would be one kind of breath technique that you would give a parent or a child right now?
So when I tell my inner child right now?
Yeah, so to give a child right now a breath technique.
It would definitely be the 7-11, which is where you breathe in for the count of 7 and out for the count of 11, making sure the out breath is longer than the in breath. That would be one that is really powerful. I mean, I use it myself. I used it last week in the doctor's surgery when I had to have blood tests, and I'm there doing my 7-11s, and you noticeably feel yourself settle. And then I mean, people know about the finger breathing, but finger breathing is just brilliant for children to use.
Not everybody does, so explain the finger breathing.
Okay. So finger breathing is brilliant, and this can be used to settle, you know, sort of fear, worry, overexcitedness, all sorts of things, anger. So you hold your hand up, and then with your pointy finger on the other hand, as you breathe in, you're tracing up, and as you breathe out, you're tracing down. So like this. And it just settles.
Well, it's all settled, doesn't we?
It's really powerful, and you know, children can do it under the desk at school. No one needs to know they're doing it. You know, It's
So
just a
that was a breathe in through the nose and out through your mouth.
I tend to, yeah, you can just do it through the nose, but I tend to say as you breathe out, use the mouth, because it sort of makes that out breath a little bit more powerful.
And longer, you can kind of breathe longer, can't you, on the out breath?
Yeah. And something quite nice. So also we make, with the little ones, we make breathing buddies. And so,
oh, what's that?
I know.
That's so cute.
I know, it really is. And so you can trace over the bumps in a similar way using your breath, or you can put your breathing buddy on your tummy at night time and just do big deep breaths and watch it go up and down. And the other thing we do, so we make glitter jars as well.
Oh, that's lovely.
They're really nice. And so I might say for home practice, for instance, 1 week they might have to shake their glitter jar and then do some finger breathing as the glitter settles, which is also a nice calming exercise.
It's all about bringing our inner world down, isn't it? And in alignment with that feeling of peace, isn't it? And contentment.
Slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, we do need to slow down, because our children are dragged along, aren't they?
Oh.
From the moment they wake up, it's either breakfast. I mean, fair, you know, I had to do it when I was a young mum, you know, breakfast club, school, after school club. I mean, my kids were in school for nearly 9 hours a day. Do you know what I mean? And then at home, tea, homework, bath, story, if they're lucky. I mean, it's a real go, 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 isn't it? Our world right now. So I find mindfulness so important.
Oh, it's so important. It's just a bit, yes, it's slowing down.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so many children, it's interesting running the courses, because quite often I'll be in dialogue with parents as I'm setting up my next cycle of courses, and it's like trying to fit children, because they have swimming and they have gymnastics and they have this and they have that, and it's like, gosh, actually it's so hectic that sometimes it's quite nice just to allow them to just switch off a bit.
Yeah, well, this rest and renew, I like to call it rest and renew, and I like to really, I mean, so I've got a 4-year-old, so I've had this big gap between my bigger boys and then my daughter, so it's, you know, I'm doing it all again, and I really see the value in bringing in, because it's a skill, you know, it's something that can be taught to relax and to read that book, or to just daisy gaze. I call it daisy gazing, and not have story tapes and iPads and all those things just before bed, but just to have that time for your mind to wander a little bit and to process a little bit and to make sense of what's going on before you go to
and also to get a little bit bored sometimes.
I
mean, children get bored. I mean, I'm not a perfect, you know, I do the best I can with parenting, and the way I parent my 4-year-old is since I've on the mindfulness path, so I feel that, you know, I'm trying to be as present as possible, but my goodness me, I'm still human, you know. Sometimes he watches the iPad a little bit too much, but there are other times where it's like, okay, no, we're not doing that. We're going to, and actually once he's got bored, then this creativity arrives, you know. It's so lovely to see.
It is lovely. They just need space. They need space and time to just kick the dirt, be in the garden, or be in their bedroom, or be around life in general, and just have that little bit of space, haven't they? Just to like rest. We all need it. We all need that bit of time where we come back to ourselves. And
also we need to be present with our children.
Yeah. Say that again.
And we need to also be present with our children, because, you know, that's a practice in itself. Is actually, you know, I can be in the room with him, but I need to make sure my mind and body are both there, because they're off, aren't they? You know, and actually that is one of the things I love most about mindfulness, is how much more present I am with my children. You know, when they talk to me, I'm really listening, you know.
And that thing, do you find as well that when you're not present, your kids really make you be present? So when I'm working in my mind, but I'm here, I'm on the end of the sofa, but I'm making, you know, business decisions or whatever, that's when they start kicking off and they demand that I'm
they know you're not. They know you're not there. They know you're not.
Or I can be in another part of the house, but be connected, and they'd be absolutely fine.
Yeah,
because I am connected, I'm present in that moment, I'm fully engaged, and I'm there, but physically not. They're all right. It's a really interesting one to play with.
Yeah, it really
at
is.
home, you know, to play with that sense of being present and connected and not being, and then watching our children respond, because it's almost like they're little antennae, aren't they? They can feel. Absolutely. They can feel when you're not. When you're not. And they're like,
I know.
They demand it. They absolutely demand it. So, what did I want to ask you? So, if you could kind of give somebody one piece of insight or wisdom around the importance of being happy in our lives, what would it be?
Well, it would be a lot to what we're saying about being present. That's a huge one. Actually, be present with the present moment, because not only do you often miss stuff that's going on that's actually good when we're present, we're magnifying stuff that's perhaps not so good. And also by being present, bringing in gratitude. So really being grateful for actually, like, I mean, I say for the small things, but they're not actually small. You know, it's amazing what you notice if you're present and actively cultivating that feeling of gratitude of just like, boy, actually, I'm really blooming lucky to be on this planet. You know, look how much, like, you can be having a bad day. I say this to the children all the time. You can have a bad day. We all have bad days or bad moments or bad mornings, but, you know, you can choose to place your attention on the good stuff, you know. So you can acknowledge that you're having a day that you're not feeling that great, but you can actively choose some things that you are grateful for. It's always
it's like finding the gift, isn't it? You know, finding the gift in that moment is a skill, is another skill, isn't it? That can be that can just be taught and trained within us.
That's it. And it's like knowing that we have a choice to, so I mean, we as adults, we talk about this more and more these days about, you know, knowing we can't choose what happens to us, but we can choose how we respond. But I think it's great to teach this to children when they're little, you know, that, what you can control and what you can't control. I do a whole lesson on it, you know, about, you know, you can't control how your friends do this and blah, 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 but these are the things you can control. So let go of the other stuff. But it can be actively taught, you see.
Well, it's a massive aha moment, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if there's you cannot control how that person in school feels about you. You can't control it. So let it, you know, etc., etc. But you don't know it. You don't know that when you're young. You know, you need it to be taught.
What amazing gifts!
Yeah, I know. Can you imagine? I love it so much. I love doing this stuff.
Imagine where their consciousness is going to be when they're adults.
Well, I say this to them, and this is why Chatterminds is here, because I was such an anxious bunny as I was growing up. Oh, you know, and it's like, it wasn't even a word. I didn't know what was going on with me. It was just like, whereas now, I mean, it's talked about all the time, isn't it? But if I'd had somebody to say to me, look, this is what's going on in your brain. This is why don't you try this? You know? Oh, God.
What a relief.
Loved that.
Yeah, more and more kids need to know about this.
Yeah, because as you say, if they're learning this at this age, imagine, you know, going into adulthood, these are tools forever, aren't they?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
The children that I work with, they don't necessarily all have to be really struggling with worry or anxiety or anger, you know, because mindfulness benefits anyone, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, anyone at any given moment, because life's life. Life's going to throw you a curveball, no matter how old you are, no matter how much money you have in your bank account or what you do for a living. Life is life. And that's it's a funny thing, you know, when people say, oh, I've had a bad day. And you go, what, the whole day? The whole day was bad? Well, no, there was this 10 minutes where...
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a bad moment. I had a bad, exactly.
Okay. So, but the other, you know, 23 hours was all right.
Yeah. But I also teach this to kids. I think it's important for them to know that actually, you know, life is like that. Sometimes life is amazing and sometimes life is really rubbish. And sometimes but it goes like this, and that is what life is, you know, and it's like expect it to be like that, you know, rather than constantly always feeling that you have to aspire to be happy all the time. You know, that's not what life is.
It's not reality, is it?
No.
And also there's an authenticity around being real with your emotions and not pushing them to one side and brushing them under the carpet, and not like when I was growing up, you know, it was all done to, and I've done it as well, to kind of save the child from feeling it, the chocolate biscuit, or the you know, the treat, or even a smack, you know, that's what happened when I was growing up. It was like, let's stop
Me
this.
too.
Both are extreme and both aren't needed. I found, just as a mum, sitting alongside my child and saying, yeah, right, this is awful right now. You're right. I'm here. I'm here with you. And they might respond and go away, I don't want it, and it's like, I hear you. Yeah, as soon as you're ready, I'm here. I've got your back. This is a natural new, feeling. Feel it. I don't want to try and save you.
Absolutely.
I don't want to try and bottle it down with a chocolate biscuit. You've got to be strong as a teacher or a parent or anybody who is caring for children. You have to be brave to face that amount of, when a child's losing the plot, you have to be brave to go all the way with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to take that breath and be like, right, okay, let's go for it. Because you're so right. It's like actually being next to them and saying, hearing them first of all, listening, huge one. Just not trying to fix it straight away. I mean, at some point maybe offering if they want it, but just hearing what they're saying. I've got my oldest daughter, she's in year 6, and sometimes she comes out of school and what she just needs is for me to just hear what's going on.
A sounding board.
At the end of that, there's no need, it's because it's out and it's heard and it's validated, and there we are, let's move on.
That's the solution, isn't it? It's to not solutioneer. I mean, I've spent many a time on the floor of Tesco's with my son, and just holding space, making sure he's not going to hurt himself, and doing a big 2 fingers up to the rest of the people that can't handle it. And it's like, you know what? This is going to be a lot quicker than me losing my shit and trying to drag him out of here because I'm placating you and your feelings of not being able to cope. No, I'm not doing that.
No.
I'm going to be here present with my boy, and he's really lost it because he can't have whatever it was, the biscuit or whatever it is that he couldn't, whatever.
Yeah, and then they're taken over like a tidal wave. This emotion, and then you often see parents like telling them off for having this feeling, or like, it's just not allowed.
Well, you've got social judgment happening in those particular moments. You've got your interpretation of that social judgment. I love it. I always give that knowing look and that supportive smile to any mum or dad.
Just say, like, come on, you're doing a good job. Good for you.
Yeah, well done. You're doing it. Because it's full on and it's hard work. And I find as well, you allow the child, you're in that place, they don't carry it with them. They're not going to carry it with them when they become an adult.
No.
You are literally doing them a massive favour by working through it
in the moment. Yeah, exactly.
And then it's not going to freeze inside them and be triggered when they're older.
Yeah.
They won't have to come to me for a one-to-one. Basically, because we've just sorted it out
right then and there. Stop talking about this so much, otherwise you're going to be out of a job.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the point. That's my mission, is to be out of a job. I want the next generations to be clear of all this rubbish. But like you said before, though, it's hard. We're running jobs, we're running homes, we're tired, we're doing the domestics, don't beat yourself up for not being completely present 100% of the time, because that's just not real. I think it's about being authentic.
Yes.
Conveying and not having that spill out and project on the family, but conveying it in such a way that we're heard and validated and given space to.
That's right, because I think it's good to say to. I mean, I often say to my kids, if I am feeling really stressed or run down or tired, because actually Chatterminds a couple of months ago I was really run down with it all, and then your coping isn't great. But if you say, actually, I'm feeling a bit rubbish today, and sorry if I was a bit snappy, and this is what's going on for me, and because it's important for kids to know that you're human too, and it's not
to put you on a pedestal. Because that's shocking.
I do that to the parents as well. The parents need to know that, but even though I'm teaching this stuff, make me this perfect mother and perfect, like, all Zen woman. It doesn't at all.
But but in essence, that honesty and that amount of clarity is the gift, isn't it? Is to be able to say, look, I'm teaching this, I use this, you know, I need to use it lots in my life. Life takes over. But that's why these tools are here. We all need to use it. We're all in the same boat. That gives it credibility, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, my gosh, for me, because I'm on the mindfulness teacher training program at Bangor Uni now to teach it to adults, so I'm teaching it to the parents. And my experience is with kids, so I'm a bit out of my zone teaching it to parents, but I did my first 8-week course a couple of months ago and loved it. I loved it. A lot more scary because, you know, but a bit like you're saying, I think they just got a lot out of it because of being authentic and just saying, this is, life is stressful, you know, doing the best you can. You know, it's
that's the bottom line, isn't it? Once you know where you are, honestly, you can then do something to change it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love it though. It's great.
It's amazing. So where could someone get in contact with you if they felt, you know, that you're on Facebook? You've got a... So
I'm on Facebook. I'm based in Bristol, and I'm on Facebook. So Chatterminds is the name of my little business. Yes, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, and I have a website which is chatterminds.co.uk. So yeah, all of those things.
That's amazing. So if you could, knowing what you know now, you could go back to your younger self who was that anxious bunny. That's how you
describe her. My goodness.
What's the one piece of wisdom would you share with her, knowing what you know now?
I'd probably, a couple of things. I'd probably encourage her to talk to somebody about it. I think that little Carol really had a huge amount on her plate, and it was all here, you know, fear. So I think it would be sort of talking it through with somebody, and just not to be so frightened, really, it was more of the fear of the fear. I think anxiety is like that. It's like the fear of the fear. Sometimes the actual trigger is not as bad as the anxiety itself, if that makes sense. So then again, the breath, it would be the breath probably as well, to know that that's always there for you to settle things a little bit, probably. Say be brave, but I think I was brave, actually. I think I was a very brave little girl because it was with me a lot of the time. Yeah, so good for her.
Yeah, well done. So it is that though, isn't it? It's about the breath, coming back to the breath again.
Coming back to the breath, and knowing that it will pass as well. That's another thing. Just that knowing this is it will pass. It's not forever, you know.
Just like the weather.
Just like the weather. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Carol, for sharing all of that.
Pleasure.
It was really, I really appreciate you. Thank you.
No, great to see you.
And anyone that wants to get in contact with Carol, then you can on Facebook and Instagram. You just have to type in Chatterminds.
All one word.
All one word.
Yeah, Chatterminds, all one word, or the website chatterminds.co.uk.
Brilliant. That's lovely. Thank you ever so much.
All right, lovely. Take care.
I'm going to put you back in the waiting room.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely. All right then. Thank you. Oh, so that was amazing. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Yeah, we've got some great top tips to help our children through those big, you know, tricky feelings and emotions, but not just our children, to help us through those times as well. You know, I'm definitely going to be doing some of the breath work. And I'd like to thank you for taking the time out to listen to us. And I will see you for another episode of the Happiness Hacker Reveals, how to live a happier and more successful life. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in a few weeks' time. Thank you.